This video will introduce relations between users and groups, and also the core approval flows. First, we will set up a managerial relationship between a user and a group. This relationship will be used to assign an approval step, rather than explicitly looking up a user's manager. Then, we will examine the core approval flow and explain how you can use it for standard approvals. I'm logged in as an administrative user, and I'm under System, Security, Relations. I'll begin by adding the relationship information. Then, I'll add an account relation. In this example, I'm just going to set up a single manager as an approver, but if I wanted to use a group, I could use the Add Group Relation option to do so. I'm going to be the manager approving a group of designers. And I can confirm that that relationship was established by going here into the accounts list and seeing that this user is now the approving manager of the designers group. Next, we will set up an approval chain. An approval chain is a predefined structure of users, groups, and/or relations used to approve requests. And the approval chains are found under Flow Management, Approval Chains. I'll take a minute to explain the hierarchy when defining the approvers. There are two operators, any and all. Any means any one user needs to approve. I'll put in some data here. So if I select a group and a user, like I've done here, whomever approves it first meets the approval requirement and the flow proceeds. With all selected, it does not mean that every single member of this administrator's group needs to approve. Rather, it means that all entities must simply be represented in the approval. In other words, one member of this group and this specific user need to approve. If you wanted every individual in a group to approve, it is best to use all and then list the individual users specifically. We'll take a look at a few of the advanced options here. You could specify the time for approval. Upon timeout, you can either have it automatically approved, rejected, or escalated. Escalated means it will go to the next in line for approval, if that's specified. And these settings can be overridden in the approval core flow, which we'll take a look at next. I'll go ahead and add our relationship for this example. Next, let's look at the core approval flows. And those are found under System, Shared Designer Elements, Approvals, Approvals Core. Decisions comes with a set of entities that you see here that comprise a standard approval process. You can customize these entities and use them for your general approval process. Most approvals have common data. There's information about the requester, the request details, and then a comments field from the approver. So the intent is to give you a mechanism for handling all of your common requests. One setup function, if you were to use this approval core mechanism, is for you to go into the designer and update the form appearance and add or remove fields as needed. The approval core is meant to be called from another flow when the approval step of a process is reached. Therefore, here in the main approval flow, which is what is called, notice the input data established, which of course you could update if you needed to. So this main flow is what calls the form that we just looked at. Now, let's look at how you incorporate the core approval flow into a flow to handle approval. Here is the flow in which I'm going to introduce my approvals core. Under Integration, Approvals, there is a Run Approval Flow component, which I will add to my workspace. If you were going to introduce this to a process that already had an approval form, this would replace that form. So now I'll configure this step, beginning with loading the approval chain that we created. I'd like to set an approval deadline. And this would override a default escalation timeframe established within the approval chain, if one existed. So what I'll do is allow 4 days for approval, after which we will mark true for it to be rejected. Just pass in some very basic information here. Just simply add a hard-coded summary. And now, just for demonstration purposes, we will give it the same outcome regardless of approval or rejection, and we'll test our flow. I'll test the flow by putting in some sample data here. And since I am in the vacation request approval chain, I get the task to fill in the approval form. We haven't done much formatting, so this is going to be a little messy. However, you see that the information is passed into the approval core.